At approximately 2 a.m. this morning, Friday, September 27th, 2013, police attended an address in Parkdale and arrested Andreas Antonacci on warrants that were issued in Montreal. Police conducted a door knock, and when Antonio opened the door and spoke with the two officers, he was arrested on those outstanding warrants that we had that had been extended from Montreal to Canada-wide warrants. He was arrested without incident, and we'll see and has seen a justice of the peace already today, and he'll be remanded in custody at the remand center in Calgary for the next 6 days. Sometime during the next 6 days, he'll be transported back to Montreal, Quebec.
Can you tell me what are you calling him? Because we had Andreas Pirelli and Mario Antonacci. What are you going by?
I went with Andreas Antonacci, and I do have an alias of Antonio Pirelli. Now, we might have got some names mixed up there. I don't have the warrants in front of me, so.
Okay, and what are the actual charges he's facing?
I don't have the specific list of charges, but I'm sure that Montreal would be able to provide those exactly for you.
What happens now? I know there was a court order that he would be out, that had his name on that court order. There's still quite a few squatters claiming rights in his embassy. What happens with those people?
Some of what you've asked me, Nancy, I don't have that specific, and we're not dealing with the court order anymore. Our dealings was with the criminal warrants, so that's been done at this point. Any further dealings at that residence will assist other agencies, as we have been throughout this entire investigation, but at this point I can't comment on that.
When are you expecting to have Antonacci back in Quebec?
Sometime within the next 6 days. There's some travel arrangements that's got to be made between us and Montreal, Quebec. So it'll be within the next 6 days. I just don't have those travel arrangements that I have knowledge on yet.
Would CPS escort him to Montreal, or is Montreal coming to get him?
Those are part of the arrangements that we're going to be making.
So did they end up extending the warrant then, and they said, yes, we want him back, or what ended up happening?
That's correct. Exactly what you said.
Describe that.
So what happens is the warrants are in existence. They were extended Canada-wide. There was lots of discussion to make sure that we had lawful placement and lawful authority to execute those warrants. And once that happened, then we made plans to do that.
So he doesn't face any kind of new charges here?
From our investigation to that residence, there are no anticipated criminal charges at this point. Now,
Fraud-related charges, anything?
From our investigation, there's no anticipated criminal charges. If anything comes to light, we'll certainly actively investigate that, and if there's grounds for it, we would lay those charges.
So what does, I mean, it seems as though then this ended because of some criminal matter in Montreal, luckily for the landlady. What does this say to people, like, if this happens again? It's like, what can you do?
I think, and I've heard in the media, and I know a lot of agencies have dealt with landlord tenancy issues, and I think that's a major message, that if you're a renter, or on the other side, the person that's doing the rentals, you need to make sure that you're doing the right thing, that you're doing it through all the legal avenues, and making sure that you're doing the proper agreements and making that happen. That gives a whole lot more authority for the different agencies to work with.
So does it mean that this guy didn't violate any law and rules related to having occupied or having lived in this house?
At this point, there was a civil agreement between the renter and the landlady. When there's no paperwork, it causes a considerable issue for the authorities to work with. So that's kind of where we're at. At this point in our investigation, there's been no criminal activity that we're aware of. If something comes to light, then we'll...
Like what? What's something that needs to come to light?
That's so wide open for me to speculate on. I don't know.
So what about the lien that he put on our house? Like, isn't that a fraudulent act that he would do something?
That'd be something that another agency, probably Service Alberta, would be looking at. That's not a police matter at this point. It's a civil matter at this point.
What's the threshold to turn it, like, to get to criminal? That's what I think we just want to explain to people, because people keep asking us, why aren't police doing something? Why aren't police doing something? So can you just kind of explain that?
I'd love to be able to explain fraud to you, but that is not my area of expertise, so I couldn't give you a proper explanation for
Or
that
just
one.
even the threshold of why police couldn't do more in this case?
Part of the problem with the fraud stuff is that there's no agreement. It's a civil agreement. There's no paperwork.
Like, is
It's
it
almost like
verbal?
it's just a handshake deal, and I don't even know if there was a handshake. Two people speak to something and then something happens. There's no paperwork that the police can act on. It's one person says this and another person says that, and that leaves it in the civil area.
Have you talked to the landlady since the arrest?
We have not yet.
So you're not gonna, is the police going to monitor the house, given that there are still people living there?
We will assist any other agency that has any further dealings with that house, absolutely. I don't anticipate any further problems with that house because once that landlady owns it, I don't expect that there'll be any issues with it.
There's currently still people in there who now, they're calling it their embassy now. They've taken over the chiefdom of the embassy, and they won't get out.
And I don't have that information, Nancy, so I can't comment on that.
wouldn't
That
qualify.
order is not yet in place, so we'll assist any agencies that are dealing with that order.
So will police be there,
If we're requested to help, we'll be there in whatever capacity they need us.
So to talk to whoever, bailiffs or whatever, about midnight tonight is the order.
What we do when we assist in those kind of circumstances is keep the peace. We're there to make sure that there's no assaults or any issues.
when police attended last night, what was the discussion about? They attended the house
At
last
what,
night.
at what point?
I think they were there about 9:30 last night, 9:30?
We had information that there was threats being leveled against the occupants of that house. When we get that kind of information, we go out and in preservation of peace, we inform the people in that house that there's been threats leveled against them. And it's something we call the duty to warn. When we're aware of information like that, and we're not sure that that occupant knows that, we have a duty to warn them.
Yeah,
And
oh, okay, the
did-
people in the house were having threats.
That's my understanding,
How
yes.
much those threats?
Unknown people at this point. That's part of our investigation. We're continuing to investigate. If we can identify those people, we would consider charges
Terry, how did you learn about those things?
from a media person.
And so, did you guys end up interviewing Antonacci, Pirelli, whatever you're calling him?
At that time when the officers went, I think it was around 8:30, there was a discussion with two officers and Antonio, who I'm going to refer to him as Andreas and Antonici. There was a discussion at that time. They talked to him and informed him, gave him the duty to warn about the threats.
Tonight, or in the morning, 2 a.m., when you arrested him, did you interview him at that time, or was he just basically taken in because it's Montreal's case?
During that first discussion, there was a request to see if they could come back and talk to him at any point in time, and they were invited back to come and talk to him.
No, but when he was taken into custody, did CPS then take him for questioning, or was he just taken into custody?
He
and
was taken into custody.
Not questioned.
No.
Okay, so, and he's not facing criminal charges, but the people who potentially threatened him could face some criminal charges.
If we were able to locate and deal with them, yes.
Okay, any other questions?
Doesn't this fall under some sort of public mischief, like he's causing all this problem for the woman and ruining the house?
Through our investigation and our dealings with this whole situation, there's no criminal behavior that we can lay a charge. We've consulted with the Crown, and there's nothing that they would support a charge in.
Terry, what about unwanted guests?
We're not there yet. At this point, there's no investigation that gives us lead to lay charges criminally.
How long before the landlady can return and assess the damage inside the house?
I don't have all that information at this point.